You're listening to Arsenal Pass, a flesh and blood podcast for players by players. And all about strategy, leveling up, and the latest news in the world of Wraith. Welcome to Arsenal Pass.
Hello and welcome back to Arsenal Pass episode 173. We have a weekend full of stories just past. Pro Tour Amsterdam, Brendan Patrick, Hayden Dale here. I want to give a first big shout out to Shoma Yamamura, new Pro Tour champion, hailing from Japan. This first time, I think, in Flesh and Blood kind of coverage, top 8, kind of Pro Tour run, where I've actually been really excited about the stories, Brendan, in the top 8, and how I still don't think as a coverage we see a full sort of, I guess, story, highlight reel, whatever. But I think they did a good job this time of kind of highlighting the players, focusing in on some things that were happening during the weekend. And ultimately, I mean, obviously, you know, Shoma winning is pretty insane. And on Azuri, of all heroes.
One of two.
What's that? What exactly? Yes, literally what I was saying. One of two. All the news out there, and Shoma says, no, Azuri.
Is that the most, I don't know what the word would be. I was going to say
rogue.
I was going to say epic win, but yeah, is that the most rogue win ever?
So let's go back through the PTs, right? So Baltimore last year was won by Oldham, right? Michael Feng. Worlds was Dromai this year. Go back before that, Leo Breyer. I mean, it tends to have been one of the top 3 decks, right? Even if you go back to PT1, it was Chain, right? The second most played
Put
deck.
in perspective, if PT1 had been won by Kano, there was more Kanos at PT1 than Azuri's at this PT.
Yes. So it's insane what Shoma did. And we're going to talk a little bit about kind of, I think, maybe the prelude to, because it's interesting. I saw Shoma play some matches before this weekend, watching the coverage from Japanese nationals, which we'll talk a little bit about some of the journeys to top 8. But yeah, I got really excited watching the coverage this past weekend, you know, not being there, unfortunately, but following along at home.
But you were competing.
I was competing over the weekend. I had a little gym competition that I've been talking about, you know, something to distract me from not being at the Pro Tour, Brendan Patrick.
How'd that go?
And I just told Brendan before we hopped on the pod, I'm now carrying a nice little injury. And I told Brendan I can't run for 3 months now. I actually tore a ligament in my foot on the weekend. But Brendan, the most important thing is that I finished the race. Went down injured, felt the pain. The pain started to numb and go away, and we managed to finish the race. So just unfortunately afterwards, they're like, "Yeah, turns out you've kind of tore a ligament in your foot." So
are you 30 yet?
Yeah, I'm 30. Yeah.
Oh, you are. So 30 in number and 30 in spirit, baby.
Yeah, first kind of injury, like reasonable injury that's held me back from doing things. Like I've had injuries when I was younger, you know, that a few weeks here and there, or like I've broken a couple of fingers actually playing like football, but they never keep you out from things. Whereas this, I'm like hobbling around, can't exercise, can't run. It's frustrating.
So
but anyway.
so Japan, are we going to see, you know, what version of Hayden Dale are we going to see in Japan at Osaka?
Oh, dude, Iron Man! I'll be back, ready to go.
Bro, yeah. I want to see you run back. US Nats 1, Orlando calling Hayden Dale.
What's that? What was that?
You just weren't as fit back then. I want to see.
Oh, no. I actually managed to get to the gym yesterday. I just can't do any lower body, so I'll be like a Dorito by the time we get to
a Dorito. Yeah, maybe an upside down one.
Whoa. Anyway, I guess this is the week in Flesh and Blood. I actually played some Flesh and Blood this week as well, after Pro Tour, watching that. There's a Battle Hardened actually in Australia this weekend. Battle Hardened Melbourne is happening this weekend, and I'm like, ooh, could I get down to it and play some Flesh and Blood? You know when you just get that bug, you're watching some Fab over the weekend. So I'm actually going to try and play Battle Hardened this weekend, actually. So
what's the format?
It's CC.
Okay.
If I go, I'm playing Kano, just so you know. So,
ooh.
Yeah.
Respect.
I think Kano's really good right now. We can talk about kind of top 8 of Pro Tour. We'll break it down. I was surprised not to see. I think, you know, we did some predictions last week on the pod. We talked about the PT. No one had Azuri winning. If you can point me to a sound clip of anyone having Azuri winning, then please do. I'm pretty sure no one had Azuri winning. But I think we also, I personally definitely thought we would maybe see a slightly different top 8. Knew it would be Zen and Nu. We talked about that significantly. But we also talked about things like the Illusionists. We also talked a little bit about, the strength of Kano. But also what we mostly talked about, Brendan, last week is that there was a lot of viability to decks in this format. And I think Shoma proved that pretty well and truly. So did Kevin Zanka, taking Levia to top 8 as well. So I think, there's a lot of depth to this format.
Okay. And out of all that, you're going to play Kano.
I think Kano's really good.
Back, baby.
Just cue those cue those assassins all day. That's how I feel about it.
For sure. I'm actually looking for the list here. I couldn't find it on Fabry. I'm actually really interested to find it. So if you're able to,
which list?
I'm looking for the Pro Tour list, actually.
Oh yeah, they're
I'm in tournament.
They're all in the recap, the Pro Tour recap. You can see all the lists. The Azuri lists there. All the Zen, the 3 Zen lists, the 3 new lists, and the Levi list. So if you didn't see Pro Tour for whatever reason, sleeping under a rock, whatever it is, Azuri wins, as we just spoke about. But there was 3 Zens in top 8, 3 news, and a Levi. And honestly, the names in this top 8, very stacked top 8. We'll get into that as well.
Par for the course.
Yeah, I mean, but usually, Shoma obviously ends up winning and is probably the most inexperienced of this top 8 for sure. But usually, I'd say you get like 2 or 3 kind of less experienced players in these top 8s. I think like 6 to 7 of these players, very experienced. And then also there's the calling as well, won by Charles Dunn. So shout out to Charles. And then Kano won Living Legend, Battle Hardened on Sunday in the hands of Alex Vore, of course.
Based.
Did you? I heard a story from a friend here locally who was messaging me and recounted. Apparently, in Alex's game, he beat a Prism in I think the semifinals or top 8.
I saw that in the top 8 bracket. I was like, oh, he's fucked, and then he made it through.
So apparently, I think he went for a first, had a quad red hand with like a Kindle and Arsenal or something, and then his opponent pitches Light of Soul, and then he just pops off in response and kills him with a quad red hand.
Alex and Vore. Yeah, I've told stories about Alex Vore on this podcast. One of my favorite people of all time. Absolutely hilarious. He's a hoot. He's a hoot.
And Chain won Living Legend. No, that wasn't Living Legend. Sorry, Chain won the Commoner event. So maybe I can still play Chain for Living Legend. Anyway, let's get into the news. Skirmish Season 9, Blitz and Living Legend is happening this month. I've been saying on the pod for the last few weeks, I'm going to be playing some Living Legend. I'm excited to play it. Maybe I'm going to play Kano, though. Maybe I'm going to abandon my Chain call and I'll go play some
How sick is that Kano is like that good in Living Legend?
Is it, or is Alex Vore that good in Living Legend?
Oh, yeah, but Alex Vore, you probably took that to the PT as well, so...
I think it literally just played the same deck.
Yeah, but that's what they did in Barcelona too, and it just like never
and
works out for them.
He almost made top 8 there.
Yeah, he almost made top 8 in Living Legend, but it just like never works out for them in the main event, and they all just go crush the Eternal format with the same deck. It makes no sense. It makes.
I think it makes sense because I think people just aren't as aware of what decks are doing in Living Legend. That it's so hard to be focused. There's more heroes. It's so hard to be focused on a meta that doesn't really exist. But I don't know if you saw. Keynote speech. We'll break down some stuff from the keynote speech, but we called it. Living Legend calling is happening this year. Chicago, end of the year, Living Legend calling. So they are rolling out the format through Skirmish. They're going to test it out, see how it goes, make some adjustments, no doubt, on the banner suspended. And then come December, we're going to have a Living Legend calling, which if I was in the US, I would be 1,000% getting. I assume I'd be 1,000% getting to. We shall see how the format rolls out. But the chance to play a new format for the first time at a tier 3 or higher event, I think is a very special thing to be a part of. So, would like to be there.
Think you can make the trip across the pond?
I mean, you're in the country.
I know. So, yeah. If you go, I'll go.
Right. Okay. We'll see. I'm actually seriously considering Portland, but we'll see.
Just because you like the area, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
It's closer. It's also closer.
It is. It's 2 flights, but it's one longer flight and one very short flight, as opposed to one very long flight and one still long flight across the country anytime you go to the East Coast. So, yeah. Anyway, Skirmish Season 9 starting. A lot of things from the keynote speech, but just a couple of other things we'll kind of hit as well. When I say keynote, I obviously mean from the Pro Tour on the weekend. Armory deck Azalea comes out this weekend. I'm excited for this because I think this is adding a couple of really important pieces for Riptide in particular. The arm slot that adds an aim counter I think is really, really strong. The new yellow card that also flips and gives an aim counter and +3. We saw at the keynote speech they announced that there is a full Guardian set coming next year. This is a Crack Shuffle Play product. They're going back to the drawing board on Crack Shuffle Play from I guess they tried it with, the full Mechanologist set. I don't know if this set is going to be draftable or it's more like a supplementary product. I don't know if you caught that. I just know that there's Crack Shuffle Play involved. So I assume it's draftable because that's limited play already. And then also it's just a full Guardian set.
How does that make you feel?
Well, I don't feel great reflecting on Bright Lights, I'll be honest. But I think they've learned a lot of lessons from Bright Lights. So many lessons.
Yeah, because you say it, when you verbalize it, it sounds risky to me. Like there's a part of my stomach kind of drops there. I'm like, oh, okay. I've been through this before. And Guardian as well is not a particularly... I think it's one of the less interesting classes. Like the Guardians are pretty similar in terms of what they do, I think. So
I think it's a safer one from a design aspect of trying to do a solo class set, though.
If it was Runeblade, though, that'd be dope.
I agree. I agree.
Interesting choice. I would assume that they learned some very hard lessons from Bright Lights. I think Bright Lights is when they reflect back on the set, I don't think they look at it as a win. So if they're going to take the risk and say a full Guardian set, which I don't think really, just the initial marketing pitch of full Guardian set probably doesn't get people as excited as if you like a normal set, something like Part Two Fail, or even if you said full Runeblade set. So I'm assuming they have some stuff in store for us. There's some secret sauce there because that sounds risky, and we're talking about 5-year-old Flesh and Blood, and I think they've learned some lessons from some previous sets. So we'll see. I can only imagine that they've really this is calculated from them at least.
Yeah. So they are called Mastery Packs. It's called Mastery Pack Guardian. I assume it's going to include a lot of previously printed cards, if not majority previously printed cards, and is going to be worked as. I mean, it's a new kind of tier of product they're adding. So I assume it's probably going to have some limited playability to it, but it's an additional product. It's not part of their core range. It's not part of their standalone boosters range. So with their product roadmap that they've released for 24 into 25, they've released out to basically a year ahead, July next year. So you can see kind of the roadmap there. They have, in terms of tiers of what they're releasing products in, they have the standalone boosters, they have the armory decks, they have new player products, and they have these mastery packs. So Mastery Pack Guardian is going to be the first of those coming in, I think, April, May-ish of next year. We know Rosetta comes out September this year. Set 15, crazy to say, by the way. Set 15 comes out in January, and then set 16 is May of next year. And then you also have these First Strike decks that are coming out at Gen Con with Aurora and Terra, which we've actually, just as we went to record, we saw a bunch of cards for drop. So we'll talk briefly about that. And then there's more armor decks.
What is a First Strike deck?
Good question. First Strike deck is an introductory product focused on newer players. The cards, from what they look like, all very approachable, a lot easier to, I guess, read and intuitively play with. It's a blitz, ready to play 40 card deck, basically, out the box.
Mm-hmm. And it differs from a normal blitz deck because the card design is simpler, basically.
Effectively.
That's the idea.
And you've got some new heroes in there as well.
Yes, sir.
And then they also had the keynote speech, Pro Tour over the weekend, the organized play roadmap for 24-25. I think, honestly, I'm really glad that they've gone ahead and been like, okay, here's what's happening for the next year, because as players, and especially as players who want to travel to events and play Pro Tours, etc., have been asking for this for a very long time. They did a bit of a better job this year, I think. Definitely, actually, a massive improvement this year. And it looks like they're going to continue that into next year with, announcing things and giving you key dates. So we now know for up till July next year what's going to be happening in terms of the OP seasons. We know we've got a skirmish season happening this month. We've got ProQuest happening in October, which will feed through to the first Pro Tour for next year, which will be in April. So a good chunk of time between that ProQuest and then feed through to the Pro Tour in March, rather. Well, you've got some time to work out your travel, etc. if you want a ProQuest. We have the world premiere for Rosetta and Release happening in September, October. November's the World Championships, of course, in Osaka. Another world premiere happening in Japan. Road to National Season in February. Pro Tour back in Europe, Brendan, in March. World premiere in May. And then Pro Tour APAC in July. So we don't know whereabouts in Asia Pacific, but we're getting a Pro Tour in Asia Pacific in July. I'm going to assume Hong Kong, Singapore.
Nice.
Bangkok could be a stretch, I think. But
I agree.
Not out of the question.
I agree. Might be a bit cheaper than Hong Kong and Singapore, though.
I don't think it's Australia and New Zealand, though. I think it's Asia.
Hong Kong and Singapore, if they're a 10 in terms of expensive, Bangkok's probably a 3. It's pretty close.
Yes.
So.
It could also go to like Ho Chi Minh, you know.
Yeah, I feel like Vietnam would be less likely actually than Bangkok.
100%. I agree. 100%.
Okay. I've been in Vietnam as well, but I was in
Bangkok is a transit hub, so it's much easier to get to.
Oh, it's super easy to get to. Super easy. Very nice airport. Also, we're rambling.
It's fine.
It's nice.
It's
Come
fine.
on.
It's fine. I was there recently.
Recently? Okay.
I transited through there recently. That's fine.
Okay.
Anyway, we are rambling. Dude, why else do you listen to us last? So the keynote, I thought, first of all, I thought the keynote was done really well. It was done by Brian Gottlieb. I thought they gave a lot of information. We also got a lot of Rosetta preview cards. Did I miss anything else from the keynote? I'm trying to think. I wrote a bunch of notes from the keynote, actually, but I think I hit everything apart from Rosetta, which we're about to talk about
Anniversary
now.
packs?
Oh, sorry, anniversary packs. Yes. So, funnily enough, on the pod last week, Brendan, we were speculating, wow, 5 years of Flesh and Blood is about to come up around the World Championship time, particularly October, November. I wonder what they'll do to celebrate 5 years. Well, now we know what one of those things are, is this anniversary pack, 5-year anniversary pack featuring some of the hits and new treatments from cards from the past. And these are available. First time they'll be available is the World Championship. I actually missed how they're available. I think it might be a combination of playing plus special events. And then there'll also be other ways to get them through the next year, from what I understand.
You can't just buy them?
I don't think so. I don't think you can buy them.
That's very ethical.
Unless what's that?
That'd be very ethical.
Yeah, no, I think this is, right. Me and Brendan were speaking about this in the pod, and I was like, why is Brendan kind of against this product?
Oh, no, I'm not against it. I'm not against it.
No. But I agree. If it was a product on sale, I would be a lot less excited about this product. But I think this is purely driven through event-based things.
I'm used to it, bro. I play Marvel Snap. It's like, how are we going to celebrate 5 years? Fucking monetize
Take
it.
more money.
Monetize it. I'm used to that.
No,
I think it's, from what I understand, if anyone has seen differently, please let us know in the comments. My understanding was that this will be available through playing events, basically.
I want to cement my opinion on the subject too, and it broadly applies to
go on.
It broadly applies to 5th anniversary pack. But Flesh and Blood, one of their core sort of competencies, I guess, when they first started out with the core thesis of the game, is like they didn't want to be Magic. They didn't want to have all these product releases. They didn't want to be doing, Magic had kind of started Secret Lair at the time. It put a bad taste in everybody's mouth, and Flesh and Blood is not doing that, but they're getting closer to it. And I think it's easy to be an old, entrenched player and be a bit jaded about that. And yeah, it is not necessarily what we were pitched. That being said, like, I think I don't think there's a good reason to die on that hill and to be upset about it. Because for me, I always have, and even when it comes to Magic, I do enjoy Secret Lair. I do like alternate arts. I do like alternate tributes of cards. I like the idea. I like being able to customize your deck and make it feel more akin to you. I actually enjoy these products. Now, if Classic Construct is rotating every fucking 1-2 months because we have a new set, that's one thing where you can get product fatigue, and that does get annoying, and that's not what's happening in Fab. But when it comes to additional treatments on cards, more products that people can buy, more introductory products, whatever, I'm totally cool with it. And I actually like that we have more. I really love alt arts. Like, I love additional versions of cards. Yeah, dude, it just feels great. Like, it feels great especially in a game where you're attached to the hero, like Kano, and you can have that pimped out Kano deck. That feels great. I love that. Inner Timmy.
Dude, you like Nick Butcher. He will always play max rarity because he swears it makes him play better. Is it the same for you, Brendan?
No, I don't play foils or anything. I don't play foils, but I do like.
I mean, playing foils is wild, man. I don't get that.
I do like
alternate
alternate arts. I do love it. I do love alternate arts.
Yeah, I also agree. I think if you look at the core product of Flesh and Blood, they're not really changing that, right? What they are introducing is more ways to get into the game, more ways to play with really kind of competitive decks when it comes to armor decks. The Mastery Pack, TBC, right? Like, what does that look like as a product, and how does that fit in? But I think if that's a once or twice per year that fits into that, then I'm okay with it.
Yeah, also, if they sell us anniversary packs, I'm not going to be that upset. I might meme them a bit, but I'm not actually going to be upset. Fine.
I might be a little upset, but that's fine.
We'll get over it, though.
Always. Let's talk about the Rosetta preview cards, because we got to see a lot. I mean,
first of all, whoops.
Well, yeah, but let's hit the heroes first. I think let's hit the heroes first, because we got to see Ocello and what Ocello does. Brendan, if you didn't see,
What a Chad. What a chat.
Constellar Intelligence, Elemental Wizard Hero, 36 health, at adult, 4 intellect, once per turn instant, discard an instant, draw a card, and it has Essence of Lightning as an Elemental Wizard Hero, so you may have lightning cards in your deck.
Interesting.
Yeah, I wish that wasn't once per turn, but that's dope.
Well, I think it'd be
Clearly broken. Yeah.
And then you want to let's just quickly hit the heroes as well if you hadn't already seen what they do. What we speculated on in terms of the difference between the young heroes and the adult heroes is correct. So if we look at Florian, for instance, Rockwood Harbinger is the adult version Elemental Runeblade hero with the Essence of Earth, 40 health, 4 intellect. If there are 8 or more Earth cards in your banner zone, Florian gets, if you create 1 or more aura tokens, instead create that many plus 1 of each of these tokens, whereas young Florian is 4. That's the same for Verdance. So Verdance Thorn of Rose is the Elemental Wizard hero, the adult, 40 health, 4 intellect, Essence of Earth. If there are 8 or more Earth cards in your banner zone, Verdance gets, whenever you gain life during your turn, you may deal 1 arcane damage to any opposing hero. Young Verdance is 4, and then Oscillo is just the same. And lastly, Aurora, Shooting Star, Essence of Lightning, Elemental Runeblade hero, once per turn instant, create an embodiment of lightning token, 2 resources, obviously. Activate this only if you played a lightning card this turn. So same for the young, no change there. Same like Oscillo has. Whereas Verdance and Florian, the Earth side has that text, the 4 versus 8, young versus adult. So very cool. A lot of cards. You want to talk about split cards because these are the most interesting, exciting. Didn't see it coming, I guess.
Yeah, definitely did not see it coming. I mean, what the split cards in Flesh and Blood? I just didn't. It's weird. Yeah, I was like, oh, how's this gonna work initially? And then, I actually think it's decently elegant, to be honest. So, you have this idea. Do they all have meld? By the way, is that just inherent to split cards, or is that?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that are the same, I guess, on these cards. So meld, yes, that's how you play both sides of the split card. For now, maybe next time they don't. I like one of the things I really like about Fab is they keep things simple when they introduce new mechanics. So shock or life is 1/2 of every single split card we've seen so far, and I'm going to assume 1/2 of every single split card that's going to be in the set, I would say. So life is on the right-hand side of all the Earth cards. Life says gain 1 life and it's an Earth instant. And then shock is in a lightning instant and says deal 1 arcane damage to any target. So each card has that. Just a couple of rules on how split cards work before we get into them. We can read them. Actually, do you want to read a split card first, Brendan? Then I can explain the rules on how these work.
Sure. You want to do Burn Up and Shock?
Go.
So Burn Up and Shock is a rare, and it's a Runeblade action on Burn Up, and then Shock is a lightning instant, cost 0. And then, I'm not sure if you just explained Meld, but it says Meld, you may play one or both sides of this card, each costs 0. The Runeblade action, so Burn Up says, the next time an attack you control hits a hero this turn, deal 4 arcane damage to them, and has go again. And then Shock, and Hayden mentioned this is stagnant on a lot of these cards. I'm not sure it's all the lightning cards, says deal 1 arcane damage to any target. So like you said, and then this card in totality blocks for 3, so you can block the card for 3. It's weird. I don't know how to template talking about it. Like, I'm like, what order do I get?
Yeah, I know. We need to work that out for the set review.
What order do I get?
But so there's a few. They've released a rules reprise on this. So a split card can be only included in your deck if you can include both sides. So if you're a wizard, what's that one? That's a wizard one. Burn Up.
It's a Runeblade one, actually.
Sorry, that's a Runeblade. Kind of odd, that one. So if you're Runeblade, but you're not an Earth Runeblade, a Lightning Runeblade, for instance, you don't have Essence of Lightning, you can't play that card. You can play one side or the other, and if you do, then the card has only the properties of that side, including all the layering, etc. If you meld, you play a single card as a single layer that has the properties of both sides. It'll be called Burn Up and Shock, will just be the one thing. And then the resource cost for playing a card with meld starts at twice the base resource cost, and then is modified by effects after that. So let's say you have one that's costs you 2 in total because it's 1 and 1. Then it would cost 2 in total, and then you'd apply modifiers after that. So melding is,
but yeah. Burn Up and Shock just threw me for a loop because it was 0. So it just
you read that. I feel like you read
that one.
That's fine. And then melding an action or instant split card means you have to play it like an action. So you can't choose which side you to play it as. You have to play it at the slowest of the speeds, which was action. And melded cards actually resolve right side first and then left side. There's a priority between the resolutions, and I think the reason that is because they're 2 different speeds. instant and action, at least from what we've seen so far. And I assume that that's why they've done it that way, so it works that way. Does that make sense? Hope so.
Yeah, I mean, I forgot to mention that Burn Up and Shock pitches for red, so pitches for 1. But
and it defends for 3 as well, right? That one actually does defend.
well, the other one, like Thistle Blossom Life, defends for 3 as well. I mean,
I'm going to go and read Null Shock. So Null Shock is a majestic. It has no defensive value. It is a yellow pitch card, and it costs 1. Each side costs 1. It is both a Wizard Instant and a Lightning Instant. So the Lightning Instant is the Shock, like we've talked about. I'm not going to go over that again. But the Null side says if target instant card has cost less than the total arcane damage you've dealt to opposing hero this turn, negate it. So the cool thing about this, right? Let's say Brendan's like, I'm going to cast this 1 cost instant card, and I'm like, well, I'm going to respond with Null Shock. I'm going to pay my 2 resources because I'm going to use both sides. Shock's going to resolve first, deal Brendan an arcane damage, and then Null's going to resolve and says if target instant card has cost less than the total arcane damage you've dealt to opposing hero this turn, I negate it. Well, I got an arcane damage off on Brendan just then. So now Null is in effect. So that's an example of how things resolve right to left and how they work. And all these cards have melt.
question in rares: do rares have cycles?
Don't know.
I don't think so. I'd be
Not that
surprised.
we've seen, and I would assume not.
No,
to be
because like the shock part seems like static. That's interesting. So shock is on the right side of all of these, but it's the right. You're getting like different rates. Like one pitches for yellow, the other one pitches for red, but both have shock. So like it feels like the rate is sort of determined by the left side of the card, which is interesting. And
and also you look at Comet
Haste,
Storm Shock.
yeah.
Comet Storm Shock, that's going to cost you 2 for a shock.
Yeah.
So do you want to be... Yeah, so it's going to come down to... It's so contextual, and I think Brian mentioned this when he showed these split cards. You know, in Limited, there is a lot of different ways to play these cards and a lot of reasons to play these cards in different ways as well. Whether you meld them, whether you don't meld them, whether you play the left side, whether you play the right side. I'm sure there's going to be an instance where you play a 2-cost shock, which is very interesting. So, it's very cool. I'm excited. There's some other cards that we saw as well. I think maybe the most notable and exciting for me is Sanctuary of Aria. I don't know if you saw this card, Brendan. This is a Rosetta macro. This is the first macro card we've seen, new card type. It says you start the game with this in the arena when playing a Rosetta limited format. So it's a arena modifier, like something we saw with, what was the Helm in Uprising? That you could pay 2 resources to prevent the damage. You could just include it as a token. I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, Rosetta macro is going to start and play. It says instant 2 resources prevent the next 1 damage that will be dealt to you this turn by a source of your choice. Destroy this at the beginning of your end phase. So effectively, you start with a little piece of something where you can prevent an arcane damage for 2 resources once per game.
What does that potentially tell you about the options for arcane prevention in the set? Do you think we're going to have arcane barrier, or do you think we're going to have?
In the keynote Brian said no arcane barrier.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So I didn't see that part, and I was going to say this tells me there's going to be no arcane barrier. You think we're going to have spell void, like we did in Tales of Aria?
I think it's going to be a lot of these kind of prevention effects. Brian alluded to being different to maybe what you expect in other sets. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's going to be. I mean, it's all Rune Blades and Wizards. It needs to be something. Maybe it is spell void. I think we might see even a new way to prevent damage. We'll see. I mean, this doesn't destroy till the beginning of the end phase, so you can use this multiple times in the same turn. It's not just a one time effect. It is is one turn though. Very interesting. We saw some generics as well. We saw a cycle, one called Hand Behind the Pen, one called Smash Up, and one called Tongue Tied. These cost 2, 1, and 3 in that order of what I read them, and they basically interact with zones. So Hand Behind the Pen is a 2-cost rare. At red, attacks for 6, defense for 2, generic attack action, says when this hits a hero, turn a card in their arsenal face up, then banish a non-attack action card from the arsenal. Smash Up costs 1 and attacks for 5. Same text with the arsenal, except that it banishes an attack action. And then Tongue Tied is when this hits a hero, turn a card in their arsenal face up, then banish an instant card from it, and it costs 3 and attacks for 7. So, very interesting. And then I guess that's kind of, there is a few other cards floating around, but those are the most interesting ones I think that we've seen so far.
Yeah, the split cards are wild. Was not on my my bingo card for something that's coming up in Fab. I just didn't know. It wasn't immediately clear to me how you would execute something like that.
It's gonna be interesting. I think they've done it from what I can see. I'm excited about how they work. You know, it's not just like a Magic split card. They definitely have their own kind of identity. And then just lastly, we've seen now the the first strike decks for Terra and Aurora and what's involved in them. And so I recommend just going to FaB TCG and checking that out. There's some cards that might have some relevancy in in constructed though. But there's also, some reprints. So the new hammer looks cool. It's called Redwood Hammer. It's a once per turn action attack for 3 resources, and says if an Earth card was pitched to the attack to attack with this, it gets +1 and attacks for 3. So kind of a new hammer buff there. But yeah, there's some interesting stuff in there. We'll see. I mean, it's gonna be cool. There's a Elemental Guardian that you can play. Because currently the other one's banned in, Blitz and CC, or Living Legend rather, in those 2 formats.
Rightly so.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's go on to Command&Cookout briefly. I mean, what I wanted to mention with the Command&Cookout this week. First of all, if you want to get your questions in for Command&Cookout, we definitely have some space for some Command&Cookout questions. You can do that by leaving a comment on the YouTube comments if you're watching this on YouTube, or popping over to the YouTube video and dropping a comment, letting us know it is a Command&Cookout question. If you want to read it on the show specifically, ask your question, your best question, your worst question, your most interesting question. If you're an Arsenal Pass patron, you can go to the Discord, drop it into the channel there. You can also tweet at us, DM us on Twitter, email us at arsenalpassfab@gmail.com, however you want to get your questions in. But actually, what I wanted to go to the comment section from last week's pod is you started something, Brendan, with all this. This is my favorite travel podcast. Yeah. Brendan, this is all your fault.
I can't.
So now I have to go through these comments to try and find the comments that are actually interesting.
Engagement up.
A lot of people spoke about last week about just Zen, the play patterns of Zen and how they find those play patterns. But my favorite comment comes here from Andrew, who says, I will say what never gets old is when Zen uses Descendant Gustwave and I block with an attack and Creepers in a Chain of Eminence and Whisper Bond of Ancestry. Or the same thing with Energy when they are using the Traverse. It made me smile to kill an Enigma's turn when they double transcend and I chained their Energy. It still makes me smile. And I just had never thought about chains in that way, and I thought that was really, really funny.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've played either of those cards, to be honest. So
yeah. And just a quick shout out to the most liked comment in the comment section last week from your mate Donald Doody, one of your friends.
Mr. Doody
says, actually insane to see people complaining about flying across the world to play card games at a Pro Tour.
Yep.
20 likes. Perspective. Don't disagree. And then we got some shout outs because Brendan, we both asked who people like to hear more of. We got some shout outs for Margin Bay. We got some shout outs from mostly Margin, I think. There was a few others maybe. There's so many comments.
Yeah, how many? How many in total? I saw
30 something.
Okay, I saw it like day one. Yeah. Everybody is if you comment this is my favorite X podcast, immediately banned. Forever.
Let's go to the main topic.
Yep, let's do it.
Pro Tour Amsterdam. As I said at the top of the pod, so many stories from the weekend, and let's just get straight into the Pro Tour and our kind of predictions. We talked about last week the story of Nu versus Zen. I thought that Nu might have ended up being the most played deck at the PT. Zen still had the crown. It was pretty close though. And if you look at the calling, it was even closer. Zen was the most played across both the PT and the calling. Nu very closely behind. And then in the PT in particular, a really steep drop-off. Like 162 decks, 162 players registered either Zen or Nu, which is, what's that? That's about 40% of the meta. So about what we thought. And then Enigma ended up being the third most played deck, tied with Prism.
Delusionist on full display at this Pro Tour. Yeah. Oh, man. That's like... So, Illusionist together is 64. 64 players. Yep. Nu was 72. We had Zen at 90. So,
yeah, Assassin was 74 in total with the two Azuris, and I don't think anyone registered Arachne. So, and then you had 64 Illusionists.
0 conversion to top 8 from the third most played.
Because Enigma sucks.
I guess Prism does too.
I don't know. I still think Prism was a good call for this PT. I mean, maybe Azuri was obviously the better call from Shoma, but I think Prism, good matchup into Nu, and I think you get to prey on... I just think the meta just had this thing where people decided to play decks that I don't really understand why. Like 31 KOs. So like Prism had to walk into KO being the 5th most played deck.
I mean, look at
which
the calling.
Is not what I would have thought.
Calling is the 3rd most played deck. It's crazy. 61.
Yeah, which I think I said Brute's going to have a bad weekend. Levi makes top 8 with Kevin Zanka, but in general, Brute had a pretty bad weekend. Didn't make top 8 at the calling or anything like that. So, yeah, I was surprised about that. I was surprised to see Kano be less represented than the likes of, well, definitely, honestly, KO, but also Victor. I was kind of, I think the dash numbers, the Leviathan numbers, the Riptide numbers. Okay, last week on the pod, maybe the week before, I said, who's your favorite deck builder, Brendan? Who's my favorite deck builder? I said, I always look out for what they're playing. Do you remember?
No, what? I don't remember, actually.
I said, I'm always on the lookout for what this person's playing because they build very clean decks.
Pablo
Pablo
Pintor.
Pintor.
Ah,
Yeah.
hey.
Do you know what he played?
No.
Do you know what he played?
No.
Take a guess at what Pablo played. Played Reinar at PTLA. Just FYI.
Riptide.
Yep.
Really?
He played Riptide.
Oh,
He
man.
played Riptide. And I don't know too much about his deck. All I know is that he paired into Nick Butcher on day 2 and fatigued him on Nu with triple remembrance. That's all I know.
That sounds like a delight of a game.
Made me happy. Like, not that, but him playing Riptide made me happy. Anyway, so yeah, story of the PT. I think when we look at maybe what we expected the meta to be, a little bit different. I would really, if you play KO at the PT, let me know why you play KO at the PT or the calling. I'd love to know why people decided to play KO. 61 KOs.
Yeah,
in the
maybe it's a
calling.
more casual
That's
audience,
10%
right?
of the meta.
So they still have their decks left over from the previous metagame.
But 31 at the PT as well. Like it's nearly 8%. It's like 8% of the meta at the PT, 10 11% at the calling. So also shout out to the amount 390 players in the Pro Tour. That's got to be, if not the biggest Pro Tour, one of the biggest. I think maybe there's 400 at the Worlds, but 620 in the calling. Anyway, some really cool results there. Some really cool decks being played. The meta actually between the PT and the calling looked really similar. More KO, but there was Enigma, Azalea, Prism, Victor, and Kano. The same top 8 decks are the same top 8 decks basically, in a very similar order. And then also same when you kind of go down to the next bracket of decks, which is Dash, Leviathan, Riptide. Very similar numbers there. So yeah, really quite interesting. I would have thought one poor soul in the calling registered Katsu after they banned Bonds.
1-5 as
team.
well. 1-5 in the PT as well.
Yeah, Fire at least has like a different angle of attack.
Yeah, different angle.
Zen's
but
just Katsu plus, right? Like Zen's just plus on
that
Katsu.
1-5 is
Anyway.
he just shit the bed at the Pro Tour and then ran it back at the calling. Like it is just 1-5 in the PT and 1-5 in the calling.
Poor guy. And same with 3 Rhinos in the PT and 3 Rhinos in the calling. It's probably the same players, right?
Yeah.
I want to know about this Tekla Vossen at the PT as well. Anyway. The story of Azuri. I want to talk about this because 2 Azuris get registered in the PT, 0 in the calling, I think, because I assume they both made day 2 at the PT.
Well, it's crazy that nobody even net decks it at that point. What was his record going into day 2?
It's too quick. I think he was maybe like X-1. I don't know if he went undefeated in CC or not. Maybe he did.
I mean,
but yeah,
you remember
it's so hard
day
to net
1
deck
of
things
PT
quickly.
New Jersey? Like we played Kano and I played the calling the next day and everybody had like 8 pieces of Null Rune or something.
Yeah, but at that point, there was Vor, I think, was like XO X1. Me and Sasha were both X1 as well on the deck. I think, and there was just like a lot of, it was PT1. There's a lot more buzz, I think, about that. Whereas Azuri's been seen before, but I guess, 2 copies as well. Very minimal. And, Shoma obviously now is a PT champion, but I think before this weekend came in quietly as someone that people didn't know as much about. People definitely know a lot about Shoma after this weekend, though.
Yeah, for sure.
The story of Azuri. So Shoma plays the Japanese nationals a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
Makes it all the way to the finals, Brendan. Actually watched his finals match against someone that I know named Xavier, who originally from New Zealand, great guy, ends up winning the Japanese nationals on Nu. There's a slog of a match. Nu versus Azuri, finals of Japanese nationals this year. I was like, okay, cool. Azuri, interesting, right? Seeing this guy Shoma play it. Played very well, I thought. Goes and learns that matchup inside and out. Shows up to the PT. Goes, I've got a good matchup into Zen, and I've mastered the Nu matchup. And then just proceeds to just crush a bunch of Zen and Nu. Does it repeatedly in the top 8. Does it first against Xing, who's one of the best players in the world. Now at this point, just been on a heater of a run. And then also does it to friend of the pod, Gabe Scher in the semifinals, and then just absolutely dispatches Bartosz in the finals. Just shows what his deck can do. Insane. Is Azuri the pick? Like, if we were talking, what's the deck that has a good matchup into Zen and Nu? And we were kind of struggling, saying maybe it's the Nu with like the mirror match tech, maybe it's Prisms that have worked something out, maybe it's XYZ. Turns out just Azuri.
How's your Delusionist matchup though, is Azuri?
It's probably terrible.
Yeah,
I
but
assume.
that's like the third most played deck is Delusionist.
Yeah. So what's that? It's like, what did we say? 62 out of that.
64.
So it's about 18% or something.
Yeah, 64.
But he's ticked into 40% or 42% of the meta. Plus, I assume he's pretty good into, some of these other decks floating around as well, like Azalea, etc. Probably the Riptides. Anyway, just very interesting, I think. And he makes a meta call, probably knows how to play a lot of those matchups. Maybe there was 7 Azuri in the calling. I totally missed that. Maybe some people did net deck. Just to recap on that. But yeah, I mean, I think just an insane kind of call from Shoma. He's an Azuri player through and through, by the sounds of it. I want to talk about the rest of the top 8 as well, because this top 8 was ridiculous. Bartosz Zemba ends up first seed heading into the top 8. If you don't know much about Bartosz, you maybe weren't playing around Pro Tour Lille, but he was a finalist at Pro Tour Lille. He's national champion of Poland in 2022. He also made the calling Madrid top 8 in 2022 as well. Maybe hasn't had as many results. He was part of that Polish team that famously Brendan brought Katsu to Baltimore. One of your favorite sort of show-ups of a team ever, bringing Katsu to a PT. This time on Zen, makes it all the way to another PT finals. Now at this point, has 2 Pro Tour finals to his name. And then you go to the boys from Hong Kong.
These guys are pretty good, huh?
The boys from Hong Kong, Pudding Tam, Xing Sang, both made top 8 at Worlds this past year in Barcelona. Run it back. Xing actually made top 16 at PTLA as well. Won the Hong Kong National Championship a month ago as well, and then makes top 8 again at this PT. It's just been on an insane run. One of the best players in the world right now, I think, easily, hands down. Has also made top 8s of calling Singapore back in 2022. Won top 4 of nationals in 2021. Xing has just been a player who's always been around, but just the last 8 months in particular has probably the best resume of the last 8 months. Outside of winning a PT.
Yeah, I think he maybe not the last 8 months. I feel like Yuki was also going on a run after Barcelona.
Or up to Barcelona. Yeah, definitely kind of. I think last year was Yuki's year for sure. If last year was Yuki's year, this year is Xing's year, I would say. And it's rough to say, like, neither of them won a Pro Tour, right? Like, obviously the Pro Tour winners are some of the best players in their own right. I always look for consistency and players that consistently put up results. I think, you look at Yuki last year, top 8 Worlds, wins a calling, top 8's another calling, I think. Nationals as well, top 8 run last year. I think those are the things I'm interested in looking at. I think those consistency and, to look back at Xing and look at the last 8 months of what Xing's been doing, every single time performing, which is just insane. I don't know if Xing went to Phuket. Maybe Xing didn't put up a result at Phuket, but Pudding, on the other hand, made it all the way to the finals in Phuket. Was also the 2022 Hong Kong Nationals champion, and then top 8 in Worlds, top 8 now here again in where are we? Amsterdam. That team is. I want to know the secrets of that team. Like, Blue Pitch have just been putting up so many results. It's pretty insane.
Imagine going back to back with your boy, like at Worlds and PT. That'd be crazy. Why don't we do that? Me and you. I think me and you could back to back like a road to Nats. We could do that.
Yeah, what are you talking about? You had like 3 in a row. Back to back wins at road to Nats.
We could back to back top 8 at road to Nats. Maybe. I don't know about World Championships and PT. That's kind of has a different level.
So I'm making a habit of going back-to-back top 4s at nationals and losing in the semifinals. So I'm sure I'll do that again next year.
Hey, that's also a thing. Yeah,
I would like to win. Gabe Scher, want to shout out to Gabe, who we tested with for Worlds back in 2022 for San Jose. Awesome dude, love Gabe. Came and hung out in Melbourne for a little bit. Came to the calling down there when he was living because he's living in Korea for a while. Is now living in Amsterdam. So had the local hopes pinned on his shoulders heading into top 8. Was undefeated on day 1 as well, playing new. Calling top 8 at Antwerp in 2023, and then makes it all the way to semifinals. Shout out to Gabe. I don't know if you know this guy, Tarak Patel. Do you know this guy?
Yeah, but all he does is play Flesh and Blood, bro. It's not like he does anything in real life, He just has so much time. That's why he does so well. Yeah,
2-time national champion.
Doctor, by the way.
Dr. Tarak Patel. 2-time national champion, USA in 2021, Canada in 2022, switching the allegiances. Got the 3 calling top 8s as well, Hartford, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, and Baltimore PT top 16 last year, finally making the breakthrough on a PT top 8. So shout out to Tarak. He puts in a lot of work and, is a very, very good player and finally got his PT top 8. So shout out to Tarak there. And then the last 2, I don't know a lot about Tom Tydex, actually. I know he's from Germany, calling Lille top 8, 2-time national top eighter in Germany. I think he actually came second. He's one up me on the top 4, losing in the semifinals, and he's lost in the finals to the last 2 German nationals. So next year, Tom's here. And then Kevin Zanker, who is another German player, I believe. Kevin's also, is that right?
I can check for you. I believe
yes, he is also German.
sir. Yes, sir.
I think Kevin beat me to a pulp at Barcelona, actually. I think we played. Colin Krakow, top 4 in 2022. Multiple national top 8s and Battle-hardened top 8s. Kevin, just wild man on the Via, making it to top 8. They're kind of insane. And then Pudding just dismantled him. But Pudding drew so well in that game. It's kind of insane. So, yeah, honestly, I just think the stories of the weekend of that top 8, their previous accomplishments, their current accomplishments, the kind of split of 3 Zens, 3 News in top 8, plus this rogue Levire and this rogue Azuri, and then Azuri eventually taking it out. I just think what a story the top 8 was. And
what would be the narrative? I know it's kind of a stupid question. What would be the narrative if if Azuri just lost in round 1 and Zen takes it? Is it just like a whole different takeaway from the tournament, you think?
I think so, because the narrative always comes down to those last few moments, the big moments, right? That's where narratives are built. You can build narrative, and people still talk about Zen being the most played deck, of course, but people are talking about
a 1 of
Shoma
2 wins the entire
Azuri.
tournament. That's just unbelievable.
Well, that's definitely what LSS are focusing on.
I've had the secret arcane knowledge of being in the booth, and they do get a bit excited when a player on a rogue deck is doing well, but particularly when it's a player on a rogue deck that is also from a potentially newly represented country in Flesh and Blood. So that was very exciting for a Japanese player to win the entire tournament.
You forgot about the secret 3rd level, which is they're also playing an assassin, and then Brian gets super excited.
Brian has always had an affinity for. I'll give Brian credit where it's due. He has always had an affinity for Azuri. Like in particular it was Azuri, so I'm sure he was very excited for that.
I think the narrative would change to answer your question. I think the focus would be, if Zen went through to win it, it'd be, oh yes, other decks are playable, but Zen is too good. And I think we talked about this in the other week on the pod. Zen's play patterns at times aren't particularly enjoyable. I think they're approachable. I think it's good for the game, but there's so much depth to this format. There's so many options of things you can play, and Azuri just won the Pro Tour. So I'm just going to say that that's the narrative, and we'll leave it there. I don't know. Yeah,
people can complain about Zen, but one thing that you always have to give credence to is that one man's trash is another man's treasure, and there's people that enjoy that play style. It's just, it comes up a lot in most games. I know Magic's going through it with, they have gone through it with the turbo discard and Grief. I know Laquana went through it, but you kind of get this vocal majority that drowns people out, saying like, "Oh, bad play patterns," and I understand. I agree. Trust me, it's not the play pattern I like, but you have to understand like there's people that enjoy that as well. So,
I would rather this linear aggro deck with a combo kind of piece to it be the most played and the best deck in the format than have to deal with oppressive ice as like the best deck where you like.
Yeah, wish I could agree, but I understand the sentiment. I understand the sentiment.
Charles Dunn wins the calling on Zen though, so there you go. Zen does get its moment in the sun. Charles has been building a bit of a resume himself over there. US Nationals winner last year on that Fatigue Briar deck. I heard he actually registered, I think, Fatigue Bravo for the PT, and then came to his senses and played Zen at the calling and wins the calling. So fair enough.
What was Hamilton and the Wolfpack on, by the way? They're not really the Wolfpack anymore, but
I don't think the team's around anymore. Hamilton didn't travel, I believe. So
okay, fair enough. Yeah. Times are changing.
Yeah,
no more.
But you know what's not changing? Pablo Pinto registering some rogue deck. I love it. I'm here for it. Anyway, I want to talk about that this week on the podcast. I just thought, I was watching the coverage on the weekend. I was fully engrossed and immersed in it, and some things never change. But I think the narratives this past weekend, being fully engrossed in this PT, watching from home, the coverage wasn't in Amsterdam. Would love to have been in Amsterdam. But I hope we get more focused coverage like this in the future, and I hope we get I like that they did the delay. They delayed day 1 and day 2 from the draft aspect to make sure there's no gaps, which we talked about last week. I think a great move on.
It was cool that they moved around venues. Like part of the time they were in Amsterdam, part of the time they were on Venus or Mercury or something like that. I don't know if you saw with the lighting. They were
the lighting on the thing. Yeah, that would be my obviously They probably should have tested the lighting.
That's just a dig.
It was natural lighting.
Yeah.
It was natural lighting.
It was funny though.
Yeah.
It was funny. It was funny.
When it
When it was on the commentators, it was funny. It was on the table. It was like, okay, yeah. But they fixed
no
that.
idea.
They fixed that. Yeah. Honestly, did you come up with all these stats yourself? By the way, did you pull all these?
From the players?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if
Wait.
you haven't seen this, Erica, what's Erica's last name?
Forsloff.
Yes. She was working on this sheet. I think, what does she call it? The Fab of Goat sheet, basically. And you can actually search up people's results on the sheet, and it has all the I think it has majority, like I would say this is 95 to 98% accurate, if not higher accuracy of especially it's probably 100% accurate for tier 3 and above events, but it also does have like battle hardens and stuff in there as well. But there's this cool tab. It's the results of only tier 3 plus events, which is my favorite tab because it has listed by player the number of top 8 placements from tier 3 and above events, which is your callings, nationals and above, so into Pro Tours Worlds. And then also, you know, how many things people have won. There's also one with battle hardens, but I mean, who's on top of that one? You already know it's Brody Spurlock with his, and Michael Fing with their millions of battle hardens. You know, the crazy thing is third place on this all events tab is someone who's, I think, played lifetime 2 battle hardens, because they have 14 top 8s of tier 3 and above events.
That's Matt Rogers.
It's Matt Rogers. The second most is Michael Fing at 8. It's Matt's top 8 record is kind of insane. I'm still hanging on to the top 10 just with my 6. Got to do something this year, though.
Yeah. No comment from me. No comment.
But anyway, if you want to check it out, you can see everyone's kind of the year, their results, etc. So it's a very cool sheet. Shout out to Erica on that one. Anyway, Brendan,
Hayden,
I think that's it.
Pro Tour Amsterdam comes to a close. All eyes on Osaka.
Yeah, okay. Actually, let's just quickly to round out the pod. What happens next? So Rosetta releases in a month and a bit time, end of September, right? So what are we, basically 2 months away from release? Then we go into effectively prep for Osaka. There's not really anything in between, right? Because the ProQuest season is, I talked about before, when's the ProQuest season? It is not until... ProQuest season is, where are we? October. So actually ProQuest season before Worlds. So Rosetta releases, we have a ProQuest season, and then we go to Worlds. So Rosetta's going to change up a lot of things once we get to October for ProQuest season, I'm sure, and then we head into Worlds. So yeah, excited to, actually this is going to be great. ProQuest season is going to be great sort of lead into Worlds, actually.
We can unironically play a wizard at Worlds, and it's okay.
It's almost certainly going to happen, I think, unless I play Runeblade.
Hey, both are cool, so it's way better than, Dash.
And before I'm playing
Riptide.
Dash was in. I would love
playing fatiguing on Riptide and a wizard meta. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I mean, it'd be cool. Worlds in Osaka is also just a big sort of marquee event for the game. Coming up on 5 years, big Japanese event, World Championships. I know a lot of people are going to be traveling for it, and I think we'll be traveling for it too, because
I'm already booked, mate.
Yeah, well, I had to hold off my booking because the United States government was trying to defraud us, but no longer, sir. No longer. Yeah, Hayden got some insight into the U.S. tax system, and it's pretty mind-blowing, to be honest.
I mean, I'm not surprised.
That's ridiculous. It's like 3D chess. They're getting you on like every angle you don't know exists. We're crazy. We survived. We survived our first tax year. Hell yeah. Barely.
All right, take us out.
All right. Well, if you enjoy this podcast, number one thing you can do is leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps so much. Video version of this on YouTube at youtube.com/ArsenalPass. Hit the subscribe while you're there. Big shout out to all the Arsenal Pass patrons. And thank you all for not commenting. This is my favorite X podcast. We appreciate it. And, big middle finger to all those people that do that. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you next week.